What's up, residents? Today we have a very special, fun podcast discussion of sorts style video, and we have a special guest. Probably you've heard of him, big boy GojiCenter. Welcome to the chat.
What is going on, everyone? Really excited to be here talking about more Kong this time, correct?
Yeah, potentially Kong, because we got some really interesting news for you guys, and I'm going to let my dear friend Alistair, who's also here with us today, kind of introduce you on everything new going on. All right, Al, so give it to the people. Give them what they want to hear. What's the news?
Well, the news is that Adam Wingard is currently in chats with Legendary to actually continue the MonsterVerse past Godzilla vs. Kong. Obviously, ending the film kind of leaves it open-ended, so, you know, it leaves it open for more films to continue. And this was actually documented by Deadline and The Hollywood Reporter, which are about as legit as you can get when it comes to news sources. So it's pretty much confirmed that he's actually in talks with him to make a sequel to Godzilla vs. Kong. But everything here from out is a bit wonky because the rights potentially go back to Toho. So one name that's actually been going around the studio has been Son of Kong, which I think is pretty likely that's going to be, at least in discussion, to be the next film, which is exciting.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't. Maybe if you wanted a Godzilla film, but like it's continuing one way or another. So the future's bright.
The future is there actually may be a future, I guess, is, you know, kind of the purpose of this is,
yeah.
You know, we didn't know if Godzilla vs. Kong was going to be the last movie or not. And I think Son of Kong is potentially a good route. I don't know how that's really going to draw much of an audience, but it's, you know, the actual sequel to the original Kong is the Son of Kong. Have you guys seen that one before? The Son of Kong.
Seen clips of it.
Second.
I've seen enough reviews of it that say it's just not as
kind
good as the original, so I've never really given it a watch. But I do know of like what happens and everything and stuff.
Yeah,
I think most of all, it's going to raise curiosity from, you know, people who are new fans of the MonsterVerse, because we have, you know, obviously the Son of Kong. So obviously that means that, you know, how is Kong going to have a son? You know, he's probably going to have to, you know, find somebody else to have a son with. That's true. Yeah, and then, you know, for the analytical people out there like me, I'm here thinking, like, are we going to see more Kongs, or is Kong going to find another little Kong out there? You know, these are the questions that are, you know, beginning to be churned out, and
it was definitely
answers,
hinted at,
you know,
because we obviously have the scene with Gia saying family might be down there, but obviously in Godzilla vs. Kong we didn't see them, but it doesn't mean it's not hinting for the future that he may end up finding them.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Hollow Earth's like the size of a continent, so we probably, I mean, we didn't even see like 1% of the entire space down there.
Exactly.
Probably.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, they could be there. And Goji, you brought up a real good point, because like, you know, the Kongs, they're not like the other Titans. Well, at least we don't know if Godzilla has to find a she-Godzilla to get jiggy with or not. But the Kongs seem to be like the most biologically, quote, real. So we already know that Kong had a mom and a dad. So he needs to if he's gonna make his own offspring, he's gonna need to find a lady. But I think another route that you said is that they could just find one, and that could make sense too. Even though the Kong's lifespan isn't that old, I don't think they don't live to be thousands of years old. I don't think.
We don't know the limit
by how much Kong has aged.
But Kong's looking
true.
pretty
old. They
old.
could live forever.
Yeah,
but he looks pretty old.
He's like, I'm guessing he's like in his. He looks like he's maybe in like 50s for Kong years, and he's already like 150 years old, like at least.
Roughly, I think I
about.
did some crazy math once way back in another video, and I came to a range that he's like probably like 150 to 300, give or take.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell. Maybe he'll find a little baby Kong that was frozen in some weird Hollow Earth physics, you know, and he's like, oh, sweet. I got this little boy I got to protect. But once again, I still don't know how that would draw in a lot of audience, although Kong Skull Island did well, and Kong's popular.
Kong as a character is already like such an attraction for a lot of American audiences and Chinese audiences as well. But as we've seen from Godzilla vs. Kong, when we combine them, it makes the biggest box office earnings out of the entirety of the MonsterVerse. So I think it would be smart to not completely ignore Godzilla from here on out. It would be good if they made a deal and like would make sure that Godzilla at least exists in the universe. Because it would be very weird if they lost the rights and just pretended like Godzilla doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, maybe that's why they kind of geared towards more of the Hollow Earth at the very end of Godzilla versus Kong, because these are two separate biomes that are connected by tunnels, and literally anything could go down there, and Godzilla could just be minding his business up on top. Even if they make some sort of reference to a big lizard up there, I think that at least MonsterVerse fans will know, obviously, that Godzilla is still up there, but it's really none of his business at this point. I mean, he's kind of like controlling everything that's going on up there, and this is now Kong's realm. So
well, we had the hints in Skull Island where Randa was kind of like, so this thing destroyed my bow. It had no conscience, and we all knew what that was. So they could kind of continue that kind of aspect.
Yeah,
and I think they gave Godzilla like kind of a proper send off, how he just walked off into the ocean. That seems to be like a classic staple for him throughout all the movies, decades worth of movies. That's usually, how it ends, and maybe we see him again, maybe we don't. They could get away with taking a movie, probably to give Godzilla a break, just for, if they wanted to make a sequel, they could hint that, we haven't seen Godzilla for a while, but he's out there, we know. But because in the Godzilla Dominion, and even a little bit in the book, Godzilla's pretty much tired. He's like fed up. At this point in the lore, he's been awake for about 10 years, and he really just wants to go to sleep, is how they describe it in Dominion. So I think, honestly, he's going to take a little break if they do continue the series. I don't think we'll see Godzilla. I think it's definitely going to be Kong-centered. But
I think
they'll mention him. He's still around.
It'd be pretty smart to do like almost like a Thanos thing where they do reference him, and maybe there's something coming and they're worried about it, and that Godzilla might rise again in the future. And I think it'd be pretty cool to hint at his eventual return, say in 8 years or something, like similar to what they did with Thanos. And then he comes and it's like, wow, this is so cool, he's back. And it could be like a big moment.
Yeah, and
really
I don't
cool
think
setup.
Toho really cares about at this point, like the MonsterVerse movies have done so well. I think they like doing their little Netflix series and all that, because they had all these big plans for movies, but it seems like they kind of just laid off on that a little bit. So maybe they're okay, because they get a piece of the pie that these MonsterVerse movies make.
They're just happy receiving money for doing nothing.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So who knows where it's gonna go? But Son of Kong is what it's rumored to be right now, between Legendary and Adam Wingard. But apparently they're throwing out all sorts of ideas, and I've already seen the dang clicky headlines that editors are putting out there, to where it's like confirmed that it's already in the works and it's like being made right now, and it's like, none of it actually said that. It just it said that more than likely Wingard and the producers and people behind these movies had a phone call. It's more or less what it sounded like, to where they're like, wow, man, this stuff did really good, we should do more. What would we do? Well, this is what we should do. That's all it's really at.
It's weird because Adam Wingard's making the Face Off movie, and he's already been, I think, rumored to be doing Thundercats or something. So he's like, he's got a lot under his belt right now. So either they're going to prioritize the next Kong film, and considering how much of a Kong fan and Godzilla fan he is, you probably go for that. But I don't see it being made, at least for like 2 years at least.
Yeah, until they actually start to film it, it's going to be a few years. So we're not talking. I mean, if they're going to continue the MonsterVerse, I think we already know that the Kong Netflix series is going to be a thing. So I think they'll probably try to hit that route for a while. But I don't. Even if we do get another movie, it's not going to be for at least 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I say it's going to be around the 3 years when we're finally going to get like a 100% confirmation of like
Hey, by the way, yeah. So, well, even with all that, let's talk about what we would like to see, guys. I've heard all sorts of different ideas from people over the last few months and years, really. But now that we know that there is an actual chance, and more than likely the MonsterVerse is going to continue, judging by how well Godzilla vs. Kong has performed and has been received, what do you want to see realistically? I'm not talking crazy fan ultimate dreams. I'm talking realistic next fifth installment of the MonsterVerse. We'll start with you, Goji. What do you think really could happen?
Man, I mean, given that we're in a Hollow Earth, there's a lot of opportunity to bring back basically any classic monster. But I feel like, given that Kong has always faced a T-Rex-ish kind of, opponent.
Yeah, definitely reptilian.
Yeah. I think that, maybe a good candidate would be Gorosaurus, maybe.
Yeah.
Very T-Rexy. I mean, I know he's based off on an Allosaurus or something like that, but it kind of, for me, it checks all the marks. If you could like redesign him to not look, silly like he used to back then, but like you could, maybe this could be like, some apex predator down in Hollow Earth that Kong is yet to run into, and like I could see these fights looking really darn awesome, given the geology that, there's in the Hollow Earth, right? You have places where you float, you have, high cliffs, you have all these,
Yeah.
You don't even know, what else is out there. They could just make it up. But, Gorosaurus, as a Titan, I think would be, really cool. Not sure if it's going to be like popular enough, but I mean, if they market it correctly, we see that, it could do well. I mean, how do you explain Kong Skull Island? It did pretty good, and they made up Skullcrawler.
Yeah, true.
They made up everything. So if they could pull it off again, I think they can. So that's something realistically, that's something that I would, like to see, and I'm pretty sure all types of cool content can come out of that too.
Yeah, for real. I mean, I think the Hollow Earth was kind of, I wanted more of the movie to have been there. I would have been, I loved the final fight that we got in Hong Kong. It was cool. It was trippy with the lights, classic monster fight in the city. But I would have been equally as happy, maybe even more happy, if Godzilla crawled his big old butt down that hole that he made and fought Kong down in the Hollow Earth. Just because, like, imagine seeing them, like, these two hulking giant gods, like, fighting while they're floating, being like, what the hell? Like, when in a place,
well, that's what was meant to happen.
Yeah, in a place where there's no gravity,
art, you see Godzilla crawl out into the temple.
Mm-hmm.
Really? See, yeah. You remember you mentioned into that to me. So like maybe this was gonna happen, and maybe that's something that could happen in a future movie, because just I don't know, seeing them both floating around, and then at that point we could have a little bit of that kind of destroy all monsters sort of vibe going on, because the Hollow Earth is full. It's not just Kong and Godzilla on the surface. It's full of these crazy creatures, and who knows what sort of, what sort of fights we would get. Yeah, so like the it's endless there. So that could potentially be a good route to go. What do you think, Hal?
Well, it's difficult, because I personally would much prefer a Godzilla 3, but based on the way Godzilla vs. Kong ends, it kind of feels like the series is naturally outgrowing something like a standard Godzilla 3. I don't think that would really work. I think what would be the smartest thing to do would be to, explore the Hollow Earth. You've got this really massive, thing here that could have like life-changing altercations, where it's like so much potential down there. I remember I was watching it, and I was like, this is like Lord of the Rings-esque, but with Kong, and I was like, it's so cool. I just prefer Godzilla as a character. So as long as they like don't pretend he doesn't exist, I'll be happy. As long as they go, oh yeah, he's up there, he's just gone to sleep for a little bit until something happens. I kind of like the idea of Son of Kong, at least if they keep Gia here, because I love Gia. She's a great character. And I'd love to see her come back, because she was the heart of Godzilla vs. Kong. She was absolutely the best character in the film. She was so unique. She's not only like a person of color, she's also deaf, and she's actually a deaf actress as well. And she's really great. And I think it's such a fresh character to have.
Yeah, I mean they could have had more of her. Like the movie could have been mostly following just her alone, and it would have been cool. She was a very cool character. I don't think enough people have kind of talked about that dynamic, just because, well, of course, the monkey and the lizard are fighting.
Yeah. Whenever people keep making a blanket statement that all the characters are terrible, and it's like, come on now, don't forget this one. So like, I think it'd be really cool to see her as a character like growing up alongside Kong in these films. And I'd like to see like maybe her heritage explored more, because we kind of got the whole
The Kiwis,
the
Kiwis,
fact they're just
the
all
Ewies.
dead. The Kiwis.
Wrong people, my
It's
bad.
not the Australians. No, the Ewies are all dead, and they kind of just said it in a sentence. And in the concept art, it actually shows that they were going to try and evacuate the Ewies, but they refused to leave Skull Island as well. So there was actually quite a lot of stuff in there that would be really interesting to learn about, because we learn about Kong's history, and we could continue to learn more about Kong's history. But I want to know about Geo as well, and like why she was rescued, because it's explained in I think one of the novels or something. But
it was explained.
But it's
in the
not.
novel,
It's not. It's
like,
still
she
quite
was
vague.
found.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think I'd like to see that. Maybe not. I don't know. I think if someone saw Son of Kong, I don't think a lot of people would be attracted to it. So maybe call it like Kong Hollow Earth or something like that, and then you've got the entirety of the Hollow Earth to make a film about. The world's your oyster.
Well, I guess
the core's your oyster.
They could call it King Kong finally, and I feel like that would get, just because at that point he was the king of the Hollow Earth, and I feel like they could go that route. Yeah, because like you said, Son of Kong, like that. I mean, I'm a huge Kong fan, I'm a huge monster fan, and all this, but a title Son of Kong doesn't get me hot and bothered to go watch a movie.
Yeah.
So I could imagine the normal person would be like, "Huh? Like, why do I care?
Yeah,
Sounds
I think
cheesy."
they could just kind of take the the idea from Skull Island, but apply it to the MonsterVerse. Have people down in the Hollow Earth just kind of exploring. You can have like an Avatar scenario, like maybe there's also other Ewies down there that have been living with more Kongs, like for thousands of years or something.
Yeah, because it's pretty much implied that that's where they all came from.
Yeah.
I'd like to see more of these. I mean, they're quote ancient human civilizations, but it's kind of playing off that trope to where they're ancient, but they had like alien technology more or less. Like they were able to build these insane like things that like even nowadays we can't really do. So they're an advanced ancient race or culture, and it would be cool to see more of them. And so I think realistically, the Hollow Earth is a great place and probably where it's going to continue. And I think that's fine. I think that's all what we want to see. It could be crazy, and just all the options are open at that point, because it's like pretty much like saying like they kicked Kong out into space and he's landing on an alien planet. They can do anything with the Hollow Earth, literally anything. And,
I think my biggest monster to return though will probably be like Biolante. I love Biolante. And she's such like a natural. She's part of nature. It's like it seems like such a and because you've got the Hollow Earth, it seems like such a. It makes sense for that to become what's like the next big thing or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if Biolante does return, I personally think Godzilla should also be in that film.
Yeah.
Because it's a Godzilla monster.
It's something that people like to see. Like how would Godzilla react to a half Godzilla, half girl, half Rose type kaiju? Like, what would he do? We saw how Godzilla freaked out when he saw Mecha Godzilla. He just gets all pissed. But imagine when he sees Biolante. That's something I want to see.
Because it's completely against like the natural order. It's
the hell
let's just get Space Godzilla in there. Let's just get Space Godzilla. Like, just throw everything in there. I don't care at this point. Just throw everything in there.
I mean, just go crazy and go nuts. That's really just what we want to.
Space Godzilla in the concept art or something, like. Or
there's like a painting from like in a temple where it's like Kong and Godzilla both drawn in red, and then there's like a flying Godzilla that's painted blue, and everyone's kind of like, is that hinting at Space Godzilla? Because it's got wings.
I'm gonna have to see that. Is that in the art book?
Yeah, it's in the art book.
Yeah, it's.
I can't wait to get mine, man. I haven't got it.
I think that also, me and Jacob were discussing this the other day about how I don't think Godzilla's species is kind of just like a bunch of very similar looking things. I think the way looking at it is like Godzilla's species are like a bunch of extremely unique specimens that are at the core related. And I think if one has wings, like one's gigantic, like the one we saw Kong pull his axe out of. One could be maybe scrawny and walk on all fours. Like, I think there's so much potential for like other versions of Godzilla, or at least exploring that.
Yeah, you know what? I wanted to ask you guys because we've pretty much already talked about like what we want or how it could go. And here's a topic that no one's talking about. I don't know anything about it. I haven't heard anything in months. Okay. What's going on with this King Kong or this Kong Netflix series? What do you think's gonna happen with that? What do you, like? Is this when we're gonna see Kong as like finally, maybe not a little baby, but he's gonna actually be like not super huge? Like, how do you think that show's gonna go
down? There's no guarantee that Kong's even gonna show up in the show. It's called Skull Island. Maybe he's just not there. Maybe it's just about the people, because obviously the show's about how they washed up at 1933. It's like the film crew, I think it is. They washed up in the Wanderer on Skull Island, but there's no guarantee Kong's going to be in it. And if he is in it, he'll probably be very small-ish.
He would be more of a, even smaller teenager because, in 1973, I think he was 104 feet. And, before that, I mean, I'm assuming he's going to be smaller. And if it's an anime, it would make sense for Kong to be a little smaller because, you have anime is kind of like a fast-paced format, they kind of just move around real quick, have all these cool effects and everything. So it would make sense to have like a smaller Kong doing all these cool, maneuver, and it'd be realistic. Because a smaller Kong, I'm assuming, is more agile than a big old Kong. I don't know. It could be.
I don't think they said it was like a quote, like anime, like a, the Japanese.
Well, it's the
Castlevania.
I think it's the Castlevania like, guys, so it will look similar to that.
Oh, okay, okay. So it will be kind of okay, cool. Well, that's good. All right.
That's not like anime. That's kind of like westernized animation, but uses kind of like some kind of anime. It's
kind of like mixing both the animation
ish,
a little bit.
It feels like a very high quality 90s cartoon, if you know what I mean.
Which were good cartoons, so that's good. Yeah, I guess they don't have to show Kong. Although, I just watched Skull Island just a few days ago, and in the very beginning when they're fighting on the ridge side and Kong sticks his hand up and he brings his head up.
In World War II.
Yeah, and they're in the World War II, so this is 30 years before Skull Island. Kong's still pretty huge. But like I actually paid attention to it a little bit more and then looked at it again later on in the movie when Mason Weaver touches his face. And Kong's actually a good bit smaller. Just 10 years beforehand, it looks like a human almost takes up his whole like head. So maybe Kong's only like 30 feet tall or like 40 or 50 feet tall. That's kind of what it looks like. He doesn't look
that's my guess.
Huge.
It's like 50-ish feet.
So maybe 10 years prior to that, he's going to be even a little bit smaller. And we'll actually see him like kind of action figure size with a human to where like a human could fit in his, like, I guess almost like the true King Kong, the classic size to where he's 20 to 30 feet.
20,
he can
30 feet,
hold the girl in his hand and try to take her top off and do all that weird stuff. So
yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious to know about this series because...
Well, like you say, we already knew that the MonsterVerse is going to continue one way or another, whether it was going to be films or graphic novels or TV shows. Like, it's already continuing with this. Like, I think people seem to forget about that. People are saying, "Hooray, the MonsterVerse is continuing," because they've kind of confirmed more films being made. But it's like it was already continuing. It's still being made.
They haven't talked about this Skull Island show at all. Isn't it supposed to come out like next month?
It's something like June, I think they said. Like June, July, but you know what they're like. They would probably advertise it like a month before it comes out.
And we haven't even seen anything.
Not even a trailer or anything. Netflix usually releases trailers like maybe a month and a half before.
Maybe the pandemic just slowed it all down.
You would just think that they would want to take advantage of when everything's like really still kind of fresh in everyone's minds and be like, by the way, we have this cool show coming out on Netflix. We're going to throw this trailer in to let you get hyped up about it. But who knows? I mean, we cover Camp Cretaceous a little bit on the channel, the Jurassic World, Jurassic Park animated series, and they don't really talk about that too much until the new season's about to start. So maybe like what Goji said, like a month before it comes out, they'll actually spit it out at us. Because for all we know, the series isn't even done yet. The way how these companies are cranking out.
And Pacific Rim as well, didn't they? Like, they didn't advertise Pacific Rim, but then they were like, "Oh yeah, it's coming out next month. Here's a trailer." I was like, "Huh? What?"
Yeah, we get slammed with news, and it's like, "What? Hold up, let me catch up."
We just had to stop making videos on it because there was so much coming out at the same time.
It's a little crazy.
either way, like, no matter how you want, like, you know, the MonsterVerse to continue, I think it would be very smart for Legendary to continue making each film a good standalone film, because I think each of these MonsterVerse films do a good job at making sure that, like, they are films in their own right that have connective tissue to the sequels to make this MonsterVerse where everything's, but each film is still, like, unique. Like, you could watch one on its own and be like, okay, cool, I was entertained. You don't need the context of the previous ones. So I think it would be very smart for Legendary to make sure, whether it's Son of Kong, that it's a film in its own right. Like, you know, when Godzilla 2014 came out, that could have been its own film, and they might not have made sequels, and it would have been fine. It wouldn't have been like, oh, look at this failure. It tried to make a universe, because it wasn't. It was a film in its own right. I think it would be very smart to make Son of Kong its own standalone movie, and then continue, you know, from there if that's what they want to do.
Yeah,
I think that would be very smart, because they don't want another King of the Monsters scenario where they earn $390 million and then just decide not to make any more.
You know, this whole video has been about the MonsterVerse, and I seen a really kind of like heartwarming little post the other day that Legendary did that had all 4 of the directors of the MonsterVerse movies. They're all sitting together, pretty much broing out, like, and I was following this whole experience, and I can't think of another movie series, like anything like this where like 4 different directors are like friends, they talk about it, they've made this thing together, but yet they're all unique and different on their own, and these people just seem so cool. Even they said, like, you know, the type of like bond and the bonded friendship and really whatever awesome that we have doesn't happen in our business. Like, the film world is usually kind of shady, and it's nice seeing these 4 guys and the big rich people behind them backing them, allowing them to do this, and like broing out together, making monster movies. And I just want the MonsterVerse to continue that spirit, if they can. Yeah, it's just so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. The whole thing doesn't. There's no like you know, one of the creepy business stuff going on. It doesn't feel malicious. It doesn't feel like they're using the fans. It just feels like because all the directors are fans. They've got fans to make films for the fans, and the Legendary's gone, hey, do what you want with the film. You're all fans. We trust you. And I love that. These guys have, and the studio has quickly become some of my favorite directors, and Legendary has become one of my favorite studios simply because they've been they've handled it so well.
Yeah, it's a very fan-oriented franchise, and I love that. You know, you have people who really are into, you know, what they're working on, and, you know, because of that, we get great films.
Absolutely,
I think,
or at least films that are targeted towards fans, at least. Like and even if someone doesn't like 2014, I know many people that don't like that film. There are people that love King of the Monsters, but then there's vice versa, because they're both aimed towards the fans, and the fan base is so massive where, you know, they're gonna have a divide. But I don't think there's a single person that doesn't like at least one of these films.
Yeah, for sure. And the MonsterVerse is really cool. And I think on that note, I think we're done talking about the MonsterVerse in today's video. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Goji, as always, good to have you on, and we look forward to doing more of these with you. It's kind of like we have our own MonsterVerse talk going on. So,
absolutely.
So next time you directors, you 4 get together, all you MonsterVerse people, how about you let us know next time too? Just kidding. Anyway, it's been a blast having you guys on.
Yeah. I'm just going to ask you, residents, a quick question. Who would you want to direct the next MonsterVerse films? Who would be your go-to director?